Oklahoma folk singer is dead after she was attacked by a pair of coyotes.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He hit your face off! We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
If I show weakness, if I retreat, I may be hurt, I may be killed.
Baby Azaria Chamberlain was taken by a dingo back in 1980.
Everybody, welcome to the first episode of a brand new show called Man Eaters. I'm your host, James, and thank you for joining me for the very first episode of what I hope will be a long-lasting series, but we'll see what happens. So, Man Eaters, what is this about? What are we talking about? Is it like that song, Man Eater? Not really. And by not really, I mean not at all.
Wow.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Man Eaters. We're talking about
Get a load of that guy. What a nerd. What an absolute numpty. Who starts a podcast like that? The low energy, the weird true crime podcasty voice. I'm pleased to say that things have, evolved since then. Whether or not it's a good evolution or a bad evolution, that is truly up for discussion. But it is an evolution. We did come a long way. That was a clip from the very first episode of Man Eaters, episode 1, recorded back in 2020. Wow, geez, 2021, was it? Yeah. 100 episodes later, here we are. Welcome back, everybody, to Man Eaters, the only true crime podcast on the internet where all the killers are real animals, whether it's bitings, scratchings, maulings, or clawings. We are here to talk about it for the 100th time. We are here to talk about it. And I got to be honest with you guys. I'm thrilled to be here. I got a little emotional setting up for this episode, doing the research, writing the script, and then finally sitting down to record this one. I'm going to be honest with you. I did get a little bit misty-eyed. This has been incredible journey from, I was about to say start to finish, but we're not finished. This is not the end. Back in the day when I started the podcast, and if you go back and listen to that first episode, I think you'll hear me say it. I didn't know what this was really going to be. I just wanted to talk about a couple of man-eating animals. And when the first episode went out, I think maybe it had, between 6 to 10 streams in the first week. So no, not many people were listening. And I kind of said to myself, look, I'll record 10 episodes. We'll do 10 and we'll see what happens from there. Because I had done projects in the past. I'd done podcasts. I did an advice podcast. I'd tried to do YouTube videos. And what I really struggled, where I felt down was, where is the goal? What is the trajectory? And also, no one's listening to this. No one's absorbing this content. What's the point? My goal was do 10. If anyone listens to it, we'll keep going. And if no one listens to it, we'll stop. And I actually think I only recorded 7. And then I took a big break. And, in those first 7 episodes, no one really listened. Maybe a couple of you were there, but not a lot of people were listening. And I just stopped for other reasons, I was really busy. But then I got an email from, I think it was Apple Podcasts, saying that, this episode has been streamed 100 times. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I went back into my analytics, and lo and behold, I went back. People had started listening in that break. People had started listening to the show. And then I came back and recorded, I think it was the 8th episode. And people listened to it. People were there. People were subscribing. And the rest is Listerine, guys. We've taken breaks here and there. It's been a sporadic release schedule, I'll be honest with you. But we have done it. This is the 100th episode of Man Eaters. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a little bit of a circle of life kind of deal. We're talking about the Champawat Tiger, which was the animal that we talked about in the very first episode of Man Eaters. It really set the stage for what the show was. The Champawat Tiger, of course, it is the most prolific serial killing animal in history. It killed 436 people, individual people over the course of only a few years. It is widely regarded as the greatest man-eater of all time by people who talk about this in their circles, which is basically just me and a couple other guys. But that is the episode today. It is part 4 of our kill countdown. For the last month, we've been doing a series on the basically the top 10 serial killing animals with the highest death toll, the highest kill counts. And of course, it's all been leading to this, the number one spot, which is, of course, the Champawat Tiger. So we have talked about it before in that first episode. And of course, it's come up in a myriad of different episodes. But the time that we went the most in depth was episode 1. And I'll be honest with you, it was not that in depth. Listening back to the episodes that we've done, especially early on, they were not the best. They were like 20 minutes long. Sorry, people keep texting me. I thought I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. By the way, you can watch this. I'm actually recording video for the first time, and it looks terrible, but we're here. This is going to go up on Patreon, the video version, so you can go to the Patreon, but we'll talk about that later. We did... The episodes were only like 20 minutes long in the first batch, and gradually they've gotten longer. My abilities as a bit of a researcher and scriptwriter hopefully have developed since then. So this is going to be the most in-depth dive into this story that we have covered before. But before we do that, we're going to get into the rest of the show, starting with one of my favorite segments. You guys know what it is. It's the Scratch of the Day. Scratch of the Day, of course, the segment of the show where we look at animal attacks that have occurred in the news in the last few weeks, and we just talk about them. Now, we've got a really interesting first story. Not a lot of information about it, I'll be honest, but the headline really, really grabs you and draws you in. It's the kind of stuff this podcast is made for. I'm going to read you the headline. Mystery animal attack in North Carolina. I love these ones. I love when we don't know what happened. It's a bit of a true crimey vibe to it. Really good. Now, this article was actually written a few years ago, but it's only resurfaced recently. So I'm going to read you this. A mystery animal has killed a teacher in a small town in North Carolina and is still out there. At 5:47 a.m. on Friday, February 15th, a 911 call was made to report the attack on a 77-year-old North Carolina teacher. The victim was identified as Brenda Hamilton and was reported to have died from the injuries inflicted by this mystery animal. It is still unknown what kind of animal attacked Hamilton. Bears, alligators, and coyotes inhabit Beaufort County, but have been ruled out due to DNA tests that were facilitated by North Carolina wildlife biologists. The results have, quote, eliminated any wild animals indigenous to the area, according to a statement issued by the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. Beaufort County Sheriff Office investigators and biologists with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission have teamed up to solve the mystery and identify the animal that did this. Quote, we continue to discover how devastating Mrs. Hamilton's injuries are. Please keep praying for Mrs. Hamilton and her family as they make a difficult decision in the coming days. Said a Sunday Facebook post by the school she worked at. This story will be updated as new information is available. Well, this story was apparently written a while ago, and it says here that it will be updated when more information becomes available. Information is not available. So what we're going to do, guys, is, and this is exciting, you're going to like this, we're going to do a little bit of sleuthing live on air, okay? Brenda Hamilton, death. Let's see what comes up with. Okay, here we go. A bit of an update for you. All right, so this is the Raleigh News and Observer, and the headline reads, it was a pack of dogs that was responsible for the death of North Carolina teacher, new report says. Do I want to keep reading this? I would like to continue. God damn it, I hate these. Okay, here we go. The vicious mauling of a 77-year-old school teacher in eastern North Carolina is being blamed on a pack of dogs, according to a report presented this week by Beaufort County commissioners. However, it remains a mystery which dogs killed Brenda Hamilton on February 15, 2019, as DNA evidence found no clear match to canines living in the area, reports say. Quote, it is my opinion that Mrs. Hamilton was attacked by dogs. This is based on the physical blood spatter and DNA evidence, wrote medical examiner Anne-Marie Clark of the University of Florida Veterinary Forensic Laboratory. Based on the amount of physical damage caused to Mrs. Hamilton, it was probably multiple dogs, probably 50 or more pounds. I cannot speculate on where the dogs came from, or if they were pets, or if they were feral. Hamilton was attacked at 5:30 a.m. while walking at the Pentango community, about 135 miles east of Raleigh, according to a Beaufort County Sheriff's Office press release. Neighbors told investigators they were awakened by their dogs barking by the road, and investigated to find Hamilton, who was, quote, lying in a ditch submerged up to her shoulders in water, according to a Sheriff's Office release. Emergency medical service personnel arrived to find Hamilton suffering from a catastrophic injury to both arms and legs and her scalp. A considerable amount of blood was also found on the road, leading investigators to where Hamilton was found in the ditch, officials say. She died of her injuries later in hospital. Hamilton was a wife, mother, and grandmother, and she taught for 51 years, most recently at the Pungo Christian Academy, which referred to her on a Facebook post as the school's, quote, matriarch. The severity of her injuries and the inability to name the culprits led to wide speculation in the community, including talk of hybrid wolves or panthers being responsible. In parentheses, the article writes, "There are no panthers, pumas, or mountain lions in North Carolina," the state says. Investigators reported taking 14 DNA samples from pet dogs in the immediate area, but found no match. Clark's report was presented on June 7th to the Beaufort County Commission and credited to experts at Maple Center for Forensic Medicine at the University of Florida. The commission asked the university's experts to determine the species that attacked Hamilton and, quote, generate a profile if her killer was found to be dog or dogs. Among the report's conclusions, the DNA evidence points to domestic dogs. However, there is no solid evidence linking the attack to a specific dog in the area. There is no evidence that the attack involved bears, wild cats, which includes puma, panthers, mountain lions, or bobcats, or any other species of canine, including coyotes, wolves, or foxes. The conclusions were based on the, quote, currently available data and are subject to change if new data becomes available. Social media reaction to the report has ranged from doubts about the conclusions to fear the animals responsible were never caught. Quote, I find it very hard to believe dogs did this, Brandon Berry said on Facebook after sharing news of the event. It took almost 2 years to say it was a dog. I'm not a forensic scientist, but I say no, Buddy Brickhouse wrote. Wow, Buddy Brickhouse, that's a good name. Quote, I live close. It wasn't no dogs. I still say panther. Not more than a month later, one rat a lady in the house 100 yards from where she was killed, Terry Hopkins posted. Well, there you go. Look, this is admittedly a really old story from at least 2021 was the last update. I'm not sure why when I was doing my search for recent animal attacks, this story came up, but it is an interesting one, and I don't think we had talked about it, so you're still welcome. Yeah, still glad we covered it. All right, let's move on to a story that we know happened in the last few weeks. A shark attack has attacked a fisherman in Florida. Now, I actually broke this news on the Instagram, and as always, you can follow the Instagram. There was a breaking news post for this story as well when it came out. This report comes from Nassau County in Florida, and it says, a man was fishing in Florida when a shark bit him, severely injuring his arm, officials say. The man, who was in his 40s, was on a boat at the time of the attack, which unfolded around 11 a.m. Friday at the West Rock near the port of Fernandina, which is north of Jacksonville, near the Florida-Georgia border. Nassau County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Alicia Tarracon said, a responding deputy boarded the man's boat and applied a tourniquet to his right arm to slow the bleeding. The deputy then drove the boat to shore, where rescue crews were waiting. The victim was airlifted to a hospital in critical condition. He is expected to recover. This attack comes after a well-known surfer and lifeguard was killed by a shark in Hawaii on Sunday. Tomeo Perry, 49, had been a lifeguard with the Honolulu Ocean Safety since 2016. He was a local surf coach and had competed for years in the Pipeline Master Trials, according to his official bio on his coaching site. Perry appeared in the 2002 movie Blue Crush, along with episodes of Hawaii Five-0 and The Bridge, according to IMDb. The world knew Tomeo as a surfer and actor, but to those who knew him best, he was a man of deep faith, now taken too soon, his wife Amelia Perry told ABC News in an exclusive interview. Quote, I feel so upset and devastated, but I also have a weird calmness in my heart knowing that he's in a better place. Yeah, wow. Sad story. The the article talks more about the Hawaii shark attack, and I think it's because the Florida one, we just don't know what happened yet. So, yeah, it's really that last story is sad. I didn't know this guy. I used to watch Hawaii 5-0. We got that here. I'm imagining it was like the reboot of Hawaii 5-0. Yeah, not the old one. Because Hawaii 5-0 was like a really old show, wasn't it? It's kind of like, was it like Jag? Or what's the one with Burt Reynolds in it? With the mustache? I don't know. No, I'm thinking of Magnum PI. That was Burt Reynolds Magnum PI. No, that was another guy. Tom Selleck. God, I'm good. Okay, let's move on. One more story in the Scratch of the Day segment. Wildlife officials kill coyotes. Oh God, hold on. You know what? I'm going to defend myself here. I checked this because before we started recording, I made sure that all these websites wouldn't give me the ad block bullshit, and it's giving me the ad block bullshit. Okay, I've got to do it again. Hold on. Unblock. Refresh. Let's watch. Okay. I hate ad block so much. Just let me watch the thing. Okay. Sorry, guys. San Francisco wildlife officers shot and killed 3 coyotes over the weekend after a 5-year-old girl was attacked by the animals at Golden State Park. Why? What? Oh my God. I apologize, everyone who was watching and listening. This article just cuts itself off. There's no other information there. I'm going to find a better article because this is, when I was searching for articles today, that story was the top story. Let's have a look. Okay. All right. Yes, coyotes at San Francisco Botanical Garden put down after child attack. All right. In a troubling... Oh, this is the One Green Planet website. I've never been here before, but it looks great. In a troubling event over the weekend, wildlife officers shot and killed 3 coyotes at the San Francisco Botanical Gardens after one of the animals bit a 5-year-old girl. The attacks took place within Golden State Park, where the girl was attending a supervised summer camp. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife reported that 2 coyotes were shot on Saturday, followed by another on Sunday. According to spokesperson Patrick Foy, the girl was bitten on Friday while playing, prompting immediate medical attention at a local hospital. Her mother, Helen Sparrow, shared with the San Francisco Chronicle that her daughter had fallen while running and was bitten on the buttocks. Standard protocol dictates that any wild animal attacking a person is killed to allow for rabies testing and DNA sampling. A DNA sample was collected from the girl's wound, and efforts are underway to identify the specific coyote responsible. If the samples do not match, further actions may be necessary to ensure public safety, including additional trapping or murder of other coyotes in the area. Murder. Not murder. We don't use that word for animals, really. Let's call it destruction of other coyotes in the area. Makes me think that maybe ChatGPT wrote this article. The Botanical Garden, which was temporarily closed following the incident, reopened on Monday. The girl received stitches and a rabies vaccine, although health officials noted that rabies is uncommon in coyotes. There you go. That's the story. Well... I mean, it says it all. That's what's happened. Coyotes, we've talked about a lot in the past, and they are kind of like just little small little dogs. I find them cute, but apparently they are quite a pest over there in the old US of A. There's only been one confirmed adult death by coyotes. Of course, Taylor Mitchell, the Canadian folk singer who was killed by some coyotes back in the 2000s. At least one child has been killed. I believe in Georgia, a little girl, a baby even, was taken by a coyote. And I think that the cause of death was actually that the coyote broke its neck. Not that it bit or, caused blood loss or anything like that. But I guess it doesn't matter. At that point, it's still responsible for the death. But it does seem that coyote attacks are kind of rising. It does, just from looking at the news each week, it does seem like coyote attacks and bites do rise. Whether that is due to an increase in antisocial behavior from the animals, or more likely it's because humans are encroaching in their areas a little bit more. There's always, when we talk about man-eating animals or any kind of animal attack, it always comes down to a handful of factors. Food scarcity is primary amongst them. Humans encroaching on their habitat is another one. Injury, if it is a man-eater, injury to the animal that prevents it from hunting its regular food. And the other part that goes hand in hand with humans encroaching in the habitat is animals adapting to humans near them and losing their innate fear of human beings. That is another factor. Of course, there are other factors. Sometimes an animal's just a prick, but generally it's those four things. It's food scarcity, it's humans encroaching in the area, it's the animal losing its natural instinct to be afraid of humans, or it is an injury that causes it to go after humans instead of its natural prey. There you go. That is our Scratch of the Day segment. We do have another news-related segment, and this one's a really wacky one. So hold on to your butts, guys, because it's our Dickhead of the Day. Dickhead of the Day time, guys. Today we're looking at a real weird story, I'll be honest. So I'm just going to give you some background. So there's a guy on the internet, and he's called Turtle Boy. And he is currently... Well, there's an investigation happening right now due to an animal cruelty act which targeted Turtle Boy. The response of that, the reason that someone has targeted Turtle Boy seems to be his commentary over a murder trial. So I'm going to go into some more background here. Let's talk about the Karen Reed murder trial, and how an online influencer, I guess, writer named Turtle Boy is involved. So here's what's going on. This is in Dedham. I don't know what Dedham is. I think it's in Massachusetts. That's right. Okay. The high-profile Karen Reed trial ended in a mistrial as jurors in Dedham, Massachusetts could not reach a unanimous verdict. Reed was charged with second-degree murder in the 2022 death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. In a separate case, blogger Aidan Kearney is facing charges for his alleged conduct involving witnesses in the Reed trial. Okay, that's a basic brief of what's happening. I'd never heard of any of this before this morning, if I'm being totally honest. But maybe in America this is a bigger story. The was it Karen Reed trial? Apparently she murdered a boyfriend, or maybe she didn't. I don't know. So the article then asks, who is Turtle Boy? Kearney runs the website TB Daily News. I guess that stands for Turtle Boy and not tuberculosis, because he writes under the moniker Turtle Boy. For months, he has been covering and writing about Reed's trial. As part of Reed's defense, her attorneys have denied that she killed O'Keefe. Instead, they allege she is a victim of an elaborate cover-up by several people, including law enforcement. Prosecutors deny the allegations and argue Reed is responsible for O'Keefe's death. Kearney has publicly questioned the investigation and published articles about it. He often filmed himself confronting witnesses in public. So, why was Aidan Kearney arrested? Well, in October of 2023, Kearney was arrested and charged with witness intimidation in the Karen Reed case. Kearney was arraigned in Sutton District Court the day of his arrest. Prosecutors read several alleged examples of witness intimidation in court, many of which appeared previously on Kearney's blogs or social media channels. Kearney was also accused of working with an Avon Police Department dispatcher. Prosecutors said Kearney and the dispatcher illegally accessed motor vehicle data. A judge ordered Turtle Boy held on a $1,000 cash bail with conditions. Among the conditions, the judge ordered Kearney to stay away from all witnesses listed by prosecutors. Several months before Kearney's arrest, Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey released a video statement condemning the, quote, absolute baseless harassment of witnesses in the Reed case. Conspiracy theories, he says, are not evidence, Morrissey said in the statement. So then Kearney responded to the charges. Kearney pled not guilty. Turtle Boy's attorney, Timothy Brattle, said the blogger vehemently denies the charges. Kearney argues that he is exercising his First Amendment rights to cover the Karen Read trial. Following the arraignment, Kearney held a press conference, and told reporters that he will not be silenced. This is a quote, "They will never shut me up. They will never, ever, ever stop me from reporting the truth about what happened to John O'Keefe," Turtle Boy said. "Reporting the news is not harassment. Asking questions is not harassment." In December, a Norfolk County grand jury indicted Kearney on 16 new charges. These charges included 8 counts of witness intimidation, 3 counts of conspiracy to intimidate witnesses, and 5 counts of picketing a witness. Special Prosecutor Kenneth Mello said at the time that Kearney was allegedly continuing to violate conditions of his bail. Quote, "It's clear that Mr. Kearney is encouraging his minions, his followers in the context of his blogs and YouTubes, etc. I love when they call it YouTubes and YouTubes, etc., to continue to harass witnesses," Mello said. Mello said Kearney is hiding behind the guise of a journalist. Brattle reiterated Kearney's stance is that he is exercising his First Amendment rights. He is allowed to encourage them to speak out against what he sees as corruption, what he sees as mismanagement of the Read case, Brattle said. Kearney's bail was then revoked. On December 26th, a judge removed Kearney's bail in the case and he was sent to jail. According to prosecutors, Kearney went to his ex-girlfriend's home. He allegedly demanded to see the woman's phone and is accused of shoving her during the confrontation. Kearney's attorney said Kearney's attorney said that was not what happened. Quote, "We're just shocked and disgusted that that's the ruling and we're going to do everything we can to fight it," Brattle said. Now, apparently, Turtle Boy had some communications with Karen Read. According to an affidavit that was unsealed in January, Turtle Boy and Read had 189 phone calls, totaling in excess of 40 hours in 2023. In addition to those phone calls, prosecutors said Read and Turtle Boy, also, I'm going to exclusively call him Turtle Boy from now on because it's too funny, said that Read and Turtle Boy also communicated in the Signal app and through an intermediary. Prosecutors alleged that Read was sharing information about the case that was not yet public. Brattle called it an investigation without a crime. Read's attorneys did not comment on the communications when the affidavit was unsealed. Quote, "It appears to me that there is zero evidence that Karen Read intended or had anything to do with any witness intimidation or interference, and rather is a woman fighting for her life as a target of a murder charge," Brattle said on January 31st. "She is entitled to wield inalienable rights for the First, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments to defend herself." On the February 23rd, Kearney was released from jail on personal recognizance. Don't know what that means. As part of that day's court hearing, Kearney was also indicted on 2 new charges of harassing a witness and intercepting wire or oral communication. I love oral communication. He pleaded not guilty to those new charges. Quote, "It really was a hard 60 days in there, I'm not going to lie. The longest 60 days of my life." This is Turtle Boy speaking, by the way. "The longest 60 days of my life, but just knowing I had a world of supporters out here to have our back, and then I'm completely innocent. You never forget that. You always stood by me. I can't thank you enough," Turtle Boy said when he was released. Since being released, Turtle Boy has continued to report on the Karen Read case on his website. Read's supporters must be at least 200 feet away from the courthouse after the judge put a buffer zone in place in an effort to maintain an unbiased jury. There was an order to leave the courtroom during some of this testimony too. Read's trial was paused briefly on Monday, May 10th, for arguments regarding Turtle Boy's presence inside the courtroom. Turtle Boy was sitting with reporters in the courtroom during testimony for the first time that day. After hearing from prosecutors, as well as Kearney's lawyer, Judge Beverly Canone said that she found Turtle Boy's presence will have a, quote, "chilling effect on the testimony of certain witnesses. As a result, Turtle Boy will be required to leave the room during testimonies by," I'm going to read these names, but I don't know who they are, "Julie Nagel, Christopher Albert, Colin Albert, Michael Proctor, Uriel Buckhennick, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert. His spot inside the courtroom will be saved and he can return after each witness steps down from the stand. Turtle Boy spoke to reporters following the decision. Quote, "They've used these trumped up charges to smear my name and paint me as some sort of dangerous intimidator," Turtle Boy said. "I've never threatened anyone. I've never hurt anyone. None of those people are scared of me. None of those people are intimidated by me." On May 15th, Canone issued an additional ruling. She said that upon reflection, Turtle Boy will be allowed in the courtroom during testimony from Proctor and Buchanan. Both are members of the Massachusetts Police Department. The court finds that unlike civilian witnesses, the troopers will be testifying in their official capacity, and the presence of Turtle Boy in the courtroom is not likely to have a chilling effect on their testimony, Canone wrote. Turtle Boy mentioned Karen Reed's trial for the first time. Several previous witnesses in Reed's trial have referenced harassment they've received in the case. May 22nd marked the first time Kearney was specifically referenced in trial proceedings. Jennifer McCabe made a Google search on the morning of January 29th, 2022 about how long it takes a person to die in the cold. The prosecution says it happened at Reed's urging after O'Keefe's body was found. The defense said Jennifer McCabe made the search hours before he was discovered. Defense attorney Alan Jackson asked Jennifer McCabe if she recalled what she searched for, and she said yes, because you've put it on social media. Jackson said that he did not put the information on social media. Jennifer McCabe replied, "I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did." In earlier testimony, Jennifer McCabe had referenced to Turtle Boy as some named blogger that I think the defense is very familiar with. There's only a little bit left. Okay, I will finish this. The state ordered to turn over discovery in the Turtle Boy case. Kearney's lawyers have accused the state of purposefully trying to delay his trial on the witness intimidation charges that have prevented him from being allowed in the courtroom for certain testimony in the Reed case. A judge on May 23rd ordered the Commonwealth to comply with the discovery, which is in the process of gathering and disclosing evidence by June 13th. The state says one reason for the delay is that the special prosecutor Mello has been ill. "I think it's become increasingly clear that the Commonwealth has bitten off a little bit more than it can chew on this case," Turtle Boy's attorney said. Turtle Boy is back in court on July 11th. He continued to be at the courthouse through Denham's Reed's trial and deliberation. Okay, that was a lot. It was a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be, but it kind of fills you in on what's happened up to this point. So I'm not only covering this because his name's Turtle Boy. That's, sometimes that can be a little bit make some stretches. That's a bit too far of a stretch, even for me. This is the actual story that I wanted you to hear. The Worcester police are investigating animal cruelty act targeting controversial blogger's family home amid Turtle Boy trial commentary. This is where the animal stuff comes in. Here's the actual story. An unsettling act of cruelty surfaced in Worcester as police launched an investigation into the harassment and animal cruelty incident involving a dead turtle hung outside the home of controversial blogger's parents. Aidan Kearney, known for his, quote, Turtle Boy blog and his contentious coverage of the Karen Reed murder trial, reported on his platform that someone left, quote, a large murdered turtle hanging from a railing at my parents' house, according to Boston.com. Worcester Police Department confirmed the incident, forwarding it to the Detective Bureau for a more in-depth probe. The grim discovery was made on the same day a mistrial was declared in the case of Reed, who was accused of killing her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, by running him over with her SUV. Turtle Boy, who has quickly become a significant figure in the so-called Free Karen Reed movement, has published extensive commentary on the case. Allegedly, he found the turtle with a hole through its head. He then shared photos for what he called, quote, educational purposes only, according to a social media post cited by Boston.com. Turtle Boy's actions have intertwined him with the case, notably resulting in his arrest last October with charges of allegedly intimidating witnesses. The investigation is still ongoing with no immediate suspects or motives reported by authorities. This case has particularly garnered attention due to Kearney's polarizing presence in the media and his alleged witness intimidation, for which he has served time in prison, which we know. His insistence on the protection of the First Amendment rights amid these charges has been a recurring theme in his defense. The blogger resumed his discussion on the trial and continued to share content across various platforms on Tuesday. It did not appear to substantially slow his online activity, indicating a determination to openly continue with his version of events and analysis. He claims that Karen Read was framed, and the assertion of a potential police cover-up have been consistent throughout his coverage of the trial since the allegations arose. The mistrial and the removal of Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on the case, have added further layers of complexity that Turtle Boy has been quick to dissect publicly. Okay, there you go. We finally got to the reason I'm covering this. The dickhead of the day, I'm not willing to call Turtle Boy the dickhead of the day, because I don't know. I don't know anything about this case, so I don't know if Karen Read did it or didn't do it, he sounds contentious. I'll say that. I'll say Turtle Boy does sound like a dickhead. But the real dickhead is the unknowns who have killed a turtle by potentially shooting or stabbing it in the head and then hanging outside his parents' house. Not even his house, his parents' house. That's my take on this whole debacle. But yeah, wow. This is, that's very true crimey for this podcast, you know? This is technically a true crime podcast, so it is nice to get a little bit of true criminess in there every now and again. But yeah, poor Turtle. Poor Turtle Boy parents, I guess. They didn't deserve that. Here's a hint for everyone, and I don't want you to do this, but if you're going to murder an animal and use it to taunt someone for doing something that you don't like, do it to them. Don't do it to their parents. I do so much shit that my parents have no idea about, and if you were to go to them and be like, Jimmy did this, they would have no idea. They're innocent victims in my misdeeds, I promise you, okay? Pick on the actual person, but don't do that. That's my lawyer is telling me don't say that, Chapman. Don't do that. Okay, scratch of the day, done. Dickhead of the day, done. It's time for a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about the Champawat Tiger, the biggest story we've covered on the show, for sure. So take a break, go and have a wee, and we'll be back very soon. And we're back. Did you have a good break, everyone? I certainly did. I had a nice little sip on this little cup. This, I'll tell you what, guys. Recording the video is great because there's a lot of stuff I can reference. Those of you who pay for Patreon, you get to see the color of the cup. That's pretty great. I've already forgotten if I just said the color of this cup, but those of you who would just listen to the audio, you have no fucking clue. It could be red. It could be blue. Fuck, it could be green. It could be, but it is. It's green. I'm sorry. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I just devalued the Patreon again by admitting that it was green. Need to get a new colored cup. But look, you can watch. Now you can watch. Listen. Couldn't do that when it was just audio. And if you are listening on just an audio version, I you can guess what I did. What did I do? Probably took a sip from the cup, right? You'd be correct. Shit, I did it again. All right. Guys, it is time for the main story of the episode. Of course, this is the final part 4 of our kill countdown. Now, over the last 3 episodes, we have talked about a series of animals. I'm going to actually go through and tell you what they were, just to jog my memory as well. A series of animals, the top 10 deadliest killers in history. At number 10, we had the tigress of Bhimashankar. At number 9 was the leopard of Kahani, and at number 8 was the leopard of the Golas Range. And then in the episode after that, of course, we covered number 7, the beast of Gévaudan, number 6, the leopard of Rudraprayag, and number 5, the man-eating lions of Savo. Then last week, we talked about the leopards. At number 4, the leopards of the central provinces. At number 3, Gustav, the killer crocodile. And number 2, the Pinar man-eater. Today, episode 100, part 4 of the kill countdown, we are talking the Champawat Tiger. Before we go into the episode, before we go into the story, I want to reference our main source for today. It is a book. I'm holding it up. man, video strikes again. Jim Corbett's The Man-Eaters of Camoan. It is a first-hand documentation of Jim Corbett's hunt through the Camoan region. It's got a lot of great stories in there, some that we've referenced before, some that we haven't, and we probably will hit every story eventually. But yeah, he talks about the Champawat Tigers, which we talked about recently, the Bachelor of Palagar, which was a Patreon exclusive, the the Tack Man-Eater, but there's also stuff in here like he talks about his dog, Robin, which is nice. There's a chapter called The Fish of My Dreams. I'm going to read that one day, but today we are talking about the Champawat Man-Eater, aka the Champawat Tiger. Now, I will just go back and reiterate, we have covered this story before in our first episode, so this is a nice, circle of life, rounding out of the first 100 episodes. We are talking about the same animal that we talked about all those episodes ago in episode 1. So let's hear about the story of the Champawat Tiger. The Champawat Tiger's story is one of intense terror and profound transformation, not only for the people affected by her deadly spree, but also for Jim Corbett, the hunter who ultimately ended her reign. This Bengal tigress's journey from a regular predator to a notorious man-eater offers a deep dive into the dynamics of human-wildlife conflict and the complexities of animal behavior. Now, before we talk too much about this specific tiger, let's talk about Bengal tigers in general, because sometimes we don't talk about the biology of these animals enough. So Bengal tigers are one of the most iconic and well-known tiger subspecies. They are primarily found in India, but they also inhabit regions of Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, and fittingly for this story, Nepal. These tigers are distinguished by their striking orange coat with black stripes, a white belly, and a robust build. Bengal tigers are among the largest tiger subspecies, with males typically weighing between 400 to 570 pounds, which is 180 to 260 kilograms in metric, and measuring up to 10 feet or 3 meters in length, including the tail. Females are smaller, weighing between 220 to 350 pounds, which is 100 to 160 kilograms. Their unique orange coats with black stripes provide excellent camouflage in their natural habitats, and each tiger's stripe pattern is unique, similar to a human's fingerprint. Now, perhaps the most famous Bengal tiger of all time was the Champawat tiger. The Champawat tiger, aka the Champawat man-eater, aka the Devil of Champawat, or aka Big Scary Kitty Witty, that's my one. Its early life is largely a mystery, but we do know that she was born in the dense forests of Nepal, a region rich with wildlife that provided ample prey for a growing tiger. For reasons not entirely known, but likely due to an injury inflicted by a hunter, the tigress found herself unable to hunt her usual prey. This injury, which broke her 2 canine teeth, forced her to turn to humans, who were easier to catch and kill compared to fleet-footed deer or robust wild boar. The shift from natural prey to humans marked the beginning of a series of attacks that would bring fear and tragedy to countless families in the region. In the villages of western Nepal, the tigress began her man-eating spree. The remote and densely forested areas provided perfect cover for her ambushes. Her first victims were often lone villagers, typically women or children, gathering resources such as firewood, fodder, and water. These attacks happened with alarming frequency, and the terror spread rapidly through the region. Over time, the tally of her victims rose to around 200, a number that shocked the local population and authorities alike. As the tiger continued her attacks, the Nepalese government decided to take action. Despite several attempts to capture or kill her, she did manage to evade them. In a desperate bid to rid themselves of this menace, the Nepalese army drove her across the border into India across a river. Now, this action, while providing temporary relief to Nepal, it spelled disaster for the residents of the Champawat district in Camoan in India. The Kumaon region, located in the northern part of Uttarakhand in India, is a land of remarkable natural beauty and rich cultural heritage. Today, the Kumaon region is one of the most remote, sparsely populated and undeveloped areas in India, and it also includes part of the Himalayan mountain range. Uttarakhand has a population of approximately 10 million people, with 3.57 million people located in the Kumaon region today. Nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas, it boasts a diverse landscape of mountains, dense forests, and rivers, with notable peaks like Nanda Devi, Trishul, and Panchachuli. The climate in Kumaon is temperate, featuring cool summers, cold winters, and heavy monsoonal rains, while higher altitudes experience alpine conditions. Nainital, the administrative headquarters of Kumaon, is a popular hill station famous for its scenic Nani Lake and surrounding hills. Almora, another significant town, is renowned for its cultural heritage, traditional crafts, and panoramic Himalayan views. Ranikat, with its lush greenery and colonial architecture, offers serene surroundings and breathtaking vistas of the Himalayas. Kumaon is also rich in cultural traditions, with Kumoni being the primary language spoken in the region alongside Hindi. The region's vibrant festivals, traditional music, and dance forms, along with handicrafts and cuisines, reflect a deep cultural heritage that continues to thrive amongst the stunning natural landscape. Now, the reason I've told you a little bit about Kumaon, the region as it stands today, is that when we talk about these stories from the past, because this happened in the very early 1900s, it is quite easy for us to distance ourselves from these people in this region. But the people who live here today in 2024, they live similar lives to the people that lived there back in the early 1900s. It is a district that is very underdeveloped, and farming remains probably the most prevalent job in the area. Life hasn't changed too much there since the 1900s. So when we talk about the people who die or the people involved in this story, I don't want us to distance ourselves from them and treat them like they're cave people from thousands of years ago. These are people that have relatives that they knew that are still living today. I think it's really important to not distance ourselves like that, and to remember to treat these people with respect and reverence, because they are not people from a bygone era. The people who live there today and the people who live there during this time period, they lived very similar lives. So that's a little bit about Kumaon. Now, once in Kumaon, the tigress continued her killing spree with a renewed ferocity. The villages of Champawat district were now her hunting grounds. The frequency and boldness of her attacks increased, with many occurring in broad daylight, further amplifying fear amongst the villagers. The locals, already living in precarious conditions, found their lives turned upside down by the constant threat of this tiger. Daily activities such as farming, collecting water, and even travelling short distances on roads became perilous undertakings. The British colonial administration overseeing the region recognised the urgent need to address the threat posed by the Champawat tiger. They turned to Jim Corbett, a man known for his exceptional hunting skills and deep knowledge of the Indian jungles. Corbett, born and raised in India, had an intrinsic understanding of the local environment and the behaviour of its wildlife and people. He was not just a hunter, he was a naturalist, deeply fascinated by the animals he tracked. Now, we've talked about Jim Corbett. We've done a whole special episode on him, so you can go listen to that if you want to hear all the details of his life. But just to catch you back up, if you don't know who Jim Corbett is, I'll tell you a little bit about his life. So Jim Corbett was actually born Edward James Corbett on the 25th of July, 1875. And he was born in Nainital, which, if you remember, is the administrative headquarters of this region of Kumaon. He was a renowned hunter, tracker, naturalist, and author, celebrated for his hunting of man-eating tigers and leopards in India. His early life was deeply influenced by the natural surroundings and the cultural milieu of the Kumaon region, where he spent most of his childhood and formative years. Corbett was the 8th of 13 children born to Christopher William Corbett, a postmaster, and Mary Jane Corbett. The family lived in the town of Nainital, nestled in the Camoan foothills of the Himalayas, which played a significant role in shaping his affinity for nature and the wilderness. The lush forests, abundant wildlife, and proximity to wilderness provided an ideal backdrop for young Corbett's explorations and adventures. From an early age, Corbett exhibited a keen interest in the natural world. He would spend hours wandering through the forests, observing animals and learning all about their habitats. This early exposure to the wild honed his skills as a tracker and hunter, abilities that he would later earn him legendary status. Corbett attended the prestigious Oak Opening School in Nainital, where he received a formal education. Despite his academic rigors, his true passion lay in the jungles and hills that surrounded him. His family supported his interests, and his upbringing was marked by a blend of British colonial influence and rich cultural tapestry of India. Tragedy struck when Corbett's father passed away in 1881, leaving the family in financial difficulty. Mary Jane Corbett, a resilient and resourceful woman, took on the responsibility of raising the children and managing the household. This period of hardship instilled in Jim a sense of responsibility and resilience that would define his character for the years to come. In his late teens and early 20s, Corbett worked for the Bengal and Northwestern Railway, which required him to travel extensively. These travels further deepened his understanding of India's diverse landscapes and wildlife. His reputation as a skilled hunter grew during this time, and he began to be called upon to deal with man-eating tigers and leopards that threatened local communities. Now, at the age of 32 years old, Corbett hesitantly accepted the daunting task of tracking and killing the Champawat tiger. He made 2 conditions for accepting this job. Condition number 1 was that all rewards for killing the tiger be cancelled and that all the Indian shikiris and hunters from Almora be called off. Now, he did this for 2 reasons. He was anxious to avoid being labelled as a reward hunter, as his motives for taking down the beast were conservationist in nature. And his second condition, which was calling off all the local hunters in the area, was because he wanted to avoid being accidentally shot by any other hunters who may happen to be in the area. He wanted to be the only guy hunting this tiger because he wanted people to stay out of his way. Corbett's approach was methodical and patient. He began by gathering as much information as possible from the local villagers, piecing together the patterns of the tigress's attacks. From his interviews with the villagers, he could tell the entire community was in a state of absolute terror, as most villagers hadn't left their homes in 5 days. He was also certain now that the man-eater was still in the vicinity. Jim made the decision to head into the forest to spend the night. Now, Corbett had spent many nights in the jungle looking for game, but this was his first time hunting a man-eater. He quickly came to regret his choice of campsite when he spotted a dozen or more tigers that night. When he returned to the village after a very restless night, many of the locals were obviously surprised that he had survived. He tried convincing someone to take him to the spots where the tiger had last killed, but no one was willing to escort him there. The best they could do was point him in the right direction. Corbett's empathy for the villagers and his respect for the animals he hunted were evident in his detailed observations and strategic planning. He understood that the tigress was a product of her circumstances and not inherently evil. Corbett followed the directions of the villagers and learned that at least 2 separate occasions had occurred where the tiger had attacked a group of women working during the day and had killed one of them. In one instance, a group of 20 men were walking down a road when they heard screams. They came upon a tiger with a badly mauled woman in its jaws. The men claimed they were too terrified to do anything, and that even if they did, the woman was so badly injured that she surely would have died from an infection soon after. In another circumstance, a woman was taken away from a group of women who were collecting dry sticks for firewood. Now, this woman was killed instantly. Jim's hunt for the man-eater was fraught with danger. At this point in his career, Corbett was relatively new at the game of man-eater hunting and admitted that several times he foolishly put himself in danger. One time, he was walking along the shores of a small pond when he found a severed leg from one of the tiger's victims. As he stared at the leg in horror, he realized that he had lost focus and wasn't keeping an eye out for the perpetrator. He suddenly flung himself to the ground and raised his gun. As he did so, a small amount of dirt tumbled down from above him from a small cliff face. As he looked up, he saw the tiger turning and leaving. Corbett believes that this action of dropping to the floor and raising his rifle up saved his life, as it stopped the tiger from stalking and potentially pouncing on him. Now, after this occasion where he nearly died, he followed the tiger from his position by the pond, and he followed the bent hill bamboo which indicated the direction of the tiger was traveling. Occasionally, he would come across a pool of blood where the tiger had rested with its prey before moving on. This woman was the tiger's 436th human victim, and unbeknownst to the tiger or to Corbett, it would also be the last. The final hunt for the Champawat tiger was a tense and dramatic affair. Corbett, accompanied by a small team, set out to track the tigress through the dense jungles and rugged terrain of Camoan. He used his skills to read the signs left by the tiger, following her tracks and analysing the remains of her victims to predict the movements. The hunt was fraught with danger, as the tigress had become highly adept at avoiding traps and ambushes. A breakthrough came when Corbett discovered fresh tracks near the village of Champawat. Realising the tiger was close, he devised a plan to lure her into position where he could take a clear shot. He used buffalo as bait, setting them up in strategic locations along a road to attract the tigress. On the day of the final confrontation, Corbett positioned himself in a tree near the bait, waiting patiently. As expected, the tigress appeared, drawn by the scent of the buffalo. What occurred was a high-stakes game of patience and precision. Corbett waited for the perfect moment when the tiger was within range and in clear sight. With nerves of steel and expert marksmanship, he fired the shot that brought down the Champawat tiger, ending her deadly reign. The death of the Champawat tiger was a moment of immense relief for the villagers of Champawat and the surrounding areas. The terror that had gripped the region for years was finally over. Corbett's success was celebrated widely, and he was hailed as a hero. However, for Corbett, the experience was transformative. The hunt had deepened his understanding of the reasons behind the tiger's behavior, and he began to see his role as a protector of wildlife rather than just a hunter. Corbett's reflections on the hunt were later captured in his book, The Man-Eaters of Camoan. In it, he provided detailed accounts of his encounters with man-eaters, offering insights into their behavior, the environmental factors that drove them to prey on humans. He emphasized that most man-eaters were driven to hunt humans out of injuries, loss of habitat, or depletion of their natural prey caused by human activities. This perspective was groundbreaking at the time and helped to shift the perception of these animals from mindless killers to victims of circumstance. Jim Corbett's experiences with the Champawat tiger and other man-eaters profoundly influenced his views on wildlife conservation. He became an advocate for the protection of tigers and their habitats. His efforts played a crucial role in the establishment of Haley National Park in 1936, India's first national park, which was later renamed to Jim Corbett National Park in his honour. This park became a sanctuary for tigers and other wildlife, a testament to Corbett's enduring legacy. Corbett's work laid the foundation for modern wildlife conservation in India. His understanding of the delicate balance between humans and wildlife and his advocacy for sustainable coexistence continue to inspire conservationists today. The story of the Champawat tiger, it's not just a tale of terror and triumph, it's also a reminder of the importance of respecting and protecting the natural world. The story of the Champawat tiger highlights the complexities of human-wildlife conflict. It underscores the need for effective management of wildlife habitats and the importance of addressing the root causes that drive animals to become man-eaters. Factors like habitat loss, human encroachment, and depletion of natural prey can force predators to seek alternative food sources, leading to tragic encounters with humans. Now, in contemporary times, the lessons from the Champawat tiger story are more relevant than ever. With increasing human populations and expanding development, wildlife habitats are under constant threat. Conservation efforts must balance the need for both humans and wildlife to ensure a sustainable coexistence. The legacy of Jim Corbett and his work continues to guide these efforts, reminding us of the delicate balance we have to maintain to preserve our planet's biodiversity. To finish up, the story of the Champawat tiger, it is a multifaceted narrative that encompasses fear and survival and transformation. It reflects the challenges of living alongside wildlife and the profound impact that one individual can have on wildlife conservation. The lessons that can be learned from this tale, they continue to resonate, and they emphasize the need for compassion, for understanding, and for proactive efforts to prevent this happening again. We need to protect our natural world. I think what Jim really came away from this story was that he was a hunter, and a hunter ultimately killed the tiger and saved hundreds of lives in the future. But it was also a hunter, potentially, that caused all this to begin with. If the tiger had not been shot by a hunter in the first place and his teeth weren't damaged, it wouldn't have felt the need to go after humans. So I think when Jim realized that, he realized that he can't just be a hunter, because that's not how you protect wildlife. And he clearly was interested in protecting wildlife. The Champawat tiger is the creme de la creme of man-eater stories. Very sensationally, it killed 436 people. Those are rookie numbers for human serial killers. I think the highest death toll for a human serial killer is in the 20s, the 30s maybe. That's a far cry from 436. Also, by the way, the place where Corbett killed the Champawat tiger now has a sign there, and the platform in the tree that he stood on, I believe, still stands there till this day. So it is quite a interesting story, and one that I've wanted to recover for years, and we finally have, and it feels good to round off the first 100 episodes by going in depth with a story like that. So thank you for listening. We will be back next week with another tiger story, but much more contemporary. In fact, it's actually set in New York City, which is something I didn't think I would ever say. Before we finish up, we do have one more segment, and it's a segment I like to call, I'm going to cue you in the A. Yeah. Or no, I'm going to A you in the Q. I can't remember what I've called it. I'm going to A you in the Q. That makes sense. In this segment, it's like, I'm going to be real. It's just a Q&A segment. I just changed the name to be cute. I did have a few people ask some questions for the 100th episode. One question that was asked is, what have I learned in 100 episodes? I've obviously learned a lot. The glasses are coming off. It's getting real. I've learned a lot about myself, about animals, about wildlife, and about content creation and podcasting in the last 100 episodes. The one thing I've learned is that there's always something you can be learning. You never achieve a final success with anything like this. When I started, I was recording, I think, directly into my phone's microphone and editing in iMovie and putting it out that way, and it sounded pretty terrible. And I still haven't perfected the recording process to make everything sound amazing, but I'm getting there and I'm learning. And it's not even an area I was ever particularly interested in, but because of me wanting to do this show and to make the show as good as possible for you guys listening, I find myself, reading a lot about audio engineering and editing, and now we're filming camera stuff. So that's one area I've learned. I've learned a lot about nature and animals. I'm not a biologist. I'm not an environmentalist or anything like that. I don't have any degrees in any sciences like that. I'm not a historian. I'm an actor, and I'm, I guess, like a bit of a little funny guy, kind of like a comedian. But just because you don't have qualifications, quote unquote, doesn't mean you can't have a voice and you can't speak your mind and learn about stuff and create content. Like I try to preface everything I say with, I'm also just an idiot and I'm just learning, and you can too. But yeah, like I've learned that if you really care about something, like I do, and I really find this whole subject of animal-human conflict fascinating, then nothing's stopping you from going ahead and talking about it. And I love it. I love doing this every week. I love recording. I love interacting with you guys, the fans. When people send me messages on Instagram or via email, it is the highlight of my day. Oftentimes, because of different time zones, a lot of the listeners are in the Northern Hemisphere, in America, in Canada, in the UK. I'll get messages from you guys while I'm asleep, and I'll wake up, and that's how I wake up. I wake up to a really nice message from a viewer or from a listener, and that is honestly so rewarding. What has surprised me is another question that was asked, and I'm going to piggyback off that. What has surprised me is the fact that people actually are listening and care about the show. It's a small but mighty audience, I'll say that. But there are a handful of you, and I think you know who you are because we've talked, who are fantastic. The support I get from you guys, and there's a few people in particular, but I don't want to say any names because I don't want to leave anyone out. The support I get from a few of you guys in particular is it's life-changing. It's fantastic. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, I never expected anyone to actually listen to this. I was kind of just doing it to see what would happen. But now we get hundreds of streams of a new episode in the first week. People are there, people are listening, and those of you who do reach out and message me, even if they're mean messages, I will admit I got a mean one. I got a mean one the other day, but I still appreciate it. I still like hearing from you because it means that you care about the show as well. And yeah, like favorite moments of the show. In 100 episodes, we've talked about a lot. I always come back to that episode where we talked about the octopus wrestling. That was fantastic. When we went through the list of the snakes in Australia or in America, and we just discovered that 1 in 3 fatal snake bites in America is because it's like used in a weird religious ritual or ceremony that it shouldn't be. That's also another fantastic moment. But yeah, like I'm surprised in myself that after 100 episodes, 1, that there's still stories out there to tell, and 2, I haven't gotten bored of this yet, and I don't think I will soon. I am kind of ADHD a little bit, where I move on to different things very quickly. Like I have a great idea, and a week later I've ditched that and I've moved on to something else. So to have stuck with this show for over 3 years now and 100 episodes, to me proves to myself that this is something I care about and that I love doing, and I'm not going to stop doing it. And the biggest part of that is you guys who are listening at home. Whether you've ever reached out in person, to send a message or not, if you've just been listening in the background in incognito mode, I want you to know that I really appreciate you and you're awesome. And I love your face and I love your elbows and your butt. There we go. Wow. 100 episodes in the can. Boom, nailed it. All right, guys, that is going to be our episode. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you can do all the social media bullshit. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a YouTube. Maybe we'll have some video going up to the YouTube soon. Of course, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/maneaters. You can go and support the show there. Please do that. I have a new setup, kind of new setup. Got a little boom arm here. You can't really see it in the shot, but yeah. Basically was able to invest a little bit of cash into upgrading the setup a little bit, and that was all through Patreon and people listening through Spotify and Apple and the ad money that comes through. So thank you for your support there. I would love to, in the next 100 episodes, transition this to be a full job for me. I also will say that I took 2 weeks off, or I took a week off to do this episode, to write the script, to do the research, and I feel like it was a much better product than some of the other episodes that I've done recently that felt a bit rushed. So I'm potentially going to start uploading slightly less frequently, maybe once every 2 weeks or once every week and a half. I don't know yet. It'll depend. I guess it'll depend on the episode, because if it's a really research dense episode, I might want to take the time. So if you are a long-term listener and you listen every week, I'd like to just ask for your patience if an episode comes out a week or 2 weeks, just to understand that if I'm taking a week off, it's not because of laziness, it's because I want to get the story right the first time. I want every episode to be as good as this one was for you guys. So, yes. Anyway, go do all the social media bullshit, all the other stuff. Have a fantastic week, everybody. I love you. I love your butts. I'll say that again. And I'll see you soon. And please, as always, stay safe out there. Because as we've learned, it's a jungle out there.